If you want some tips to really cover redness and texture in the skin, then today's video is going to be for you. Actually, I tell a bit of a lie. Jazz, this video is very specifically for you. You sent me a message this week, you're getting married soon, congratulations. And you outlined a few different redness solutions that you've got and kind of asked how to use them all in harmony for your wedding base. So I thought today we could just get you ready for the big day. So first thing I'm going to do, whether it was a bridal makeup, whether it was a general makeup, I really think that redness comes hand in hand with dryness. But equally, if I'm going to layer lots of products today, I want to hydrate my skin with something that isn't too heavy. So I'm going to use Clinique Moisture Surge, and whatever that looks like for you in your makeup bag or, you know, your cupboard, I would just advise you to try and find something that absorbs quickly but really quenches any thirst in the skin. Now, I think when it comes to wedding makeup, there's two things to keep in mind. On one hand, if you've got a bit of a lead time and you have time to kind of experiment with your skincare, this can be a really good time to get a handle on things like texture in the skin. Depending on your skin type, whether you're oily, combination, dry, whether you have sensitivity, whether you have other things, maybe like acne or pigmentation, there's all kinds of things that you can have. Find something that works for your skin type to gently exfoliate the skin, and that will really help to reduce the appearance of texture. In the long run, that's great. However, one thing I'm always really passionate about from a makeup point of view is that sometimes you haven't got the long run. You're going somewhere tomorrow, you're going somewhere over the weekend, and you want to look great there and then. Here are some things that will be an instant fix for you, regardless of how much lead time you have. The first thing I'm going to recommend, this is an investment, I totally get it, but in terms of covering texture or creating a smooth canvas, I really think this is brilliant. It's the Murad Oil and Pore Control. It's a really mattifying kind of primer. I'm not going to put this everywhere. I'm just going to take it in the areas where I notice the pores. And, you know, there are so many pore things on the market. And I want to be really clear that there is nothing that will remove or eradicate pores. We all have them. They're part of healthy skin. By the same merit, there are things you can put on that will blur them and reduce the appearance of them for a short amount of time, and this is one of those things. So I'm going to really work this into the centre of the face. I've got quite a bit of redness there because I just scratched an itch, but if anything, it's probably good timing for me to be able to show you these redness solutions anyway. But as you can see, I'm going to really work this in so that I've almost massaged it into those little grooves of texture. For complexion today, I'm going to follow the things that are already in your kit, Jazz. So I've got the Dr. Jart Cicapair, the CC cream from It Cosmetics. I've also snuck in a bit of Bye Bye Under Eye from It Cosmetics. I'll come on to that. And then I also wanted to show you a couple of creams. So I'm going to use a cream bronzer and blusher to bring the whole thing together. But first of all, let's talk about complexion. Now, the Dr. Jart Cicapair, this lovely kind of mint green colour corrector, this is such a brilliant redness remedy. But one thing I would say about this, in terms of this product, in terms of bridal makeup, any makeup, only put it where you actually need it. A tiny, tiny bit of this will really drastically eradicate redness. However, because it's minty green, if you put this anywhere that isn't red, it will look really, really out of place. And I think that this CC cream is a really good example of we can't just buy things because they're viral, because I think so many people bought this because they saw it on TikTok and they didn't realise that if you're not putting it directly onto redness, it's not going to work for you. That's a video for another day, I think, how we all need to be careful not to be sucked into these viral trends. However, back to the topic at hand. If you can see here, Jazz, I'm picking up tiny bits of this at a time and I'm actually warming it between my two fingers before I put it onto the skin. Now, a couple of reasons why this is important. If it's melted down, it just kind of sinks into the skin that bit more easily. But also, if your skin is already red, this takes a bit of melting to get it nice and sheer. And if you were rubbing onto that red area with this, you're going to exacerbate the red. So I'm doing all of that legwork on my fingertips so that by the time this reaches the actual areas of redness, it's melted and I'm just patting it on rather than rubbing it in. Now what we've achieved there is a nice wash over that redness. I'm going to actually put a tiny bit more. See where I've got that little patch there? Do you know that little patch? I'm convinced it could just be rosacea, but I burnt myself with a straightener there years ago and I'm convinced it's from that. Now, a couple of reasons why we've done this. Obviously it's melted in, we don't want to exacerbate the redness, but if we're going to follow up with another complexion product on top of this, I don't want a really thick layer. I want you to have as soft layers as you can so that you look and feel fresh, but you still achieved your coverage. And also, just to show you while I'm here, if you happen to be watching this and you're not Jazz getting married and you're just wondering about the CC cream, it's a really nice one for no makeup days because it will knock out the redness, but it's not technically makeup. I had a lovely lady the other day ask me for something for her sons and she said she doesn't want actual makeup, but just something to knock out the redness, and this is the perfect kind of thing. Now, with this step, feel free to make sure it's really well submerged into that primer. That primer is there to really reduce the appearance of any texture. And this is something that, because it melts down, this is going to look nicer the more melted it is, the more softened it is, which is not the case for our foundation, but I'll come on to that in a second. But for this step, I want you to feel free to really rub these things together as much as you need to until you've got a completely, flawless, neutralised finish. So already I'm really happy with the reduction in redness there, and crucially I only took that on red areas. If you put that green anywhere that there isn't red, it's going to wash you out, it's not going to be flattering, but just on those areas of redness it does what it needs to do. The next thing I want you to do, and I'm just thinking wedding day here, is use a sponge. If you've followed this page for a while, you're going to be as amazed as I am. I hate sponges. I never give them any time of day. I'm not a sponge person, but recently I've really got into them. I would go as far as to say this is becoming some kind of sponge fan page. But basically, the reason I would love you to use a sponge if you're layering all of these different things is that your green colour corrector and your all over complexion product, I don't want them to mix together. If we mix this green into your all over base, it's going to look silly anywhere that there isn't redness. Whereas what we want to do is leave that green sitting just in those areas and layer your base on top of that. And the best way to do that without mixing them is to press on rather than rub in, which is where this sponge is going to come in. So I'm going by your list, Jazz. You've got the CC cream as the next thing. And can I just say, I did really gravitate towards this because I was thinking this is like the loveliest, my dream makeup bag. Let's start really pressing the CC cream into the skin. Now, if you haven't tried the It CC cream before, this is my favourite base of all time. I really love that this gives you a completely full coverage, but it doesn't look or feel heavy. It's got a lovely kind of fresh finish. I say that there are 3 different finishes. So if you wanted something more luminous or if you wanted something completely matte, you can opt for one of those. But really, I mean, for brides in particular, this is just beautiful because it photographs beautifully. There is an SPF 50 built into the formula, but it's physical only, so you won't get any flashback. I would really recommend this as a bridal base. And I think that because it's so fresh looking, you can layer as much coverage as you want, but it's quite deceiving. Like, you don't realise how much coverage is on someone's face because it gives a fresh finish. Another thing that I want you to kind of consider, like, I don't really have anything to colour correct on my forehead apart from that tanning disaster from last night. I mean, again, let's be honest, if you've been on this page for a while, that's really not the first tanning disaster you've seen in these parts, is it? However, what was my train of thought going to be? Oh yeah, if you have areas that you don't need as much coverage, save the coverage for the really kind of prominent redness areas and leave the rest a bit more fresh, and it gives the illusion that you haven't got anything on or haven't got as much on all over, but you secretly have. That is a wash of original CC cream. I really think the key, Jazz, to giving them all their own moment is to press on rather than rub together. Another thing that I know you mentioned was in terms of texture. I think that sits really beautifully over texture, and I would really work that sponge into any areas that are particularly textured. For me, that's definitely around the nose area, and it can be along the tops of my cheeks, depending on how much my rosacea is or isn't playing ball that week. Seeing as we're speaking about bridal skin, and this wasn't one on your list, but it's a really important one, I think. Whether you're watching this and you're getting married, whether you're not getting married and you just want a fail-safe thing in your kit, if you're a makeup artist, really listen up. The It Cosmetics Bye Bye Under Eye Concealer, if you want completely full coverage that doesn't look too heavy, I can't recommend this enough. I would say, of everything at It Cosmetics, I know you'd probably think it's the CC cream, but Bye Bye Under Eye is the thing that if I mention to someone, oh yeah, I work with It Cosmetics, they'll stop the conversation and say, oh my gosh, that concealer, I love that concealer. You know, people really wax lyrical about it. This will cover tattoos, pigmentation, redness, and I say that I did the QVC live shows for years, and believe me, when you've got a completely high definition TV lighting, all the rest of it, and it's live TV, you really can't be making claims about things that aren't true, because you are right there in the moment. There's no editing, there's no going back. Things have to deliver what you say they're going to deliver, and that is just brilliant. We used to put it on all sorts and it would always cover. If you have really prominent redness, the one thing I would say about Bye Bye Under Eye, this is a less is more. If you put too much of this on, you actually won't like it. When you put a tiny bit of it on, it is absolutely immaculate. You'll love it. This is one thing that, back to my what is soon becoming like a love of sponges, it's beautiful with a sponge. By all means, day to day, I would really recommend all of the brushes from it as well. However, for this particular case, for you, Jazz, where you're layering these multiple steps, I want you to just press this on. Now, I'll be honest with you, my skin today is kind of playing into my hands. I'm not really having too many problems with it, but I do just want to show you that even though I'm layering a completely full coverage, waterproof, long wear, sweat resistant, smudge resistant base on, it's not looking too heavy. And I think as well, because we prepped so well with the pore minimizing primer, it just means that you can layer these steps without anything sitting into any kind of areas of texture. So we're feeling nice and fresh. I wrote down your message, Jazz, so I can keep looking back to it. One thing that you had mentioned to me is that you had prepped with your Cicapair, layered your CC cream, then you were building coverage with a separate foundation. I would say that is enough coverage on its own without needing to put a foundation on top of it. If you still did want just that extra reassurance, I'd go for concealer rather than another foundation, just because, say like this concealer that I've just applied is very pigmented but slightly more lightweight. Another one that I would just put on your radar, I was actually just filming something with Bobbi Brown before I came on here, but I have just been using recently, they have new concealer sticks and corrector sticks. And what's nice about that, I wish I had something to, right, here's a lipstick to give you for ratio. Tiny, really good for top-ups through the day, to just swipe, 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 tap, tap, tap. A really good one maybe for like one of your bridesmaids to have in her makeup bag. But I'll show you that in another video. I just wanted to use the things today that you've specifically said that you already have. Now that we've done all of that, before I powder, and that's going to be a really crucial step. I just want to get my hair out of the way and add some creams, and again I'm going to use my sponges to do this. Charlotte, you sent me a message saying similar kind of skin to me. It sounds like that you have your kind of redness, you use your coverage, and then you press your cream blusher on, but you still feel like it's still lifting a bit of the coverage for you. I want you to try, first of all, I'm just going to put my Danessa Myricks cream bronzer on before I go into it. I want you to try using a cream with slightly more coverage. I love using creams, whether it's on me, whether it's on someone else. I think they're so flattering. But depending on which cream you use, they can be really different. So like the Nude Sticks creams, for example, that I really like, they have a fair bit of coverage in them. So they will almost like add to your makeup. Whereas in contrast, something like the KVD gel blushes, which are beautiful. I was looking at them the other day thinking I need to get those out again now that the weather's a bit nicer. Sorry, what have I done here with this bronzer? Let me just soften this out. I've got completely carried away with myself. Anyway, the solution, Charlotte, will be that I'm going to try you with a blusher that's got a bit of coverage in it, so that when you're pressing and tapping, you're actually building even more of a finish for your base. That's if we actually survive the bronzer chapter of this tutorial, where it's all completely... I'm going to have to really try and salvage my own skills here. Okay, listen, as always, I just think it's important to keep these moments in, because these are actually the bits of the makeup where you can really lose the will to live, and then 5 minutes later it's okay. I need to get over that tanning disaster, don't I? Because I could actually quite easily remedy that with a bit of concealer or something, but it's not that deep. This is not relative to your wedding makeup, is it, Jazz? So we're going to move on. Right, little blusher with coverage. This is the Bobbi Fresh Melon, one of my faves. If you follow Amy Conway from Bobbi, I always like say back in the day how I got to know a lot of the Bobbi girls was that I was working at Selfridges. They'd do their regional tour where like they'd come to the counter for the day, and all of the best Bobbi customers would be booking in to have an appointment with them, and I always wanted an appointment with them. And Amy just looks, I've never seen that girl look anything other than $1 million, and Fresh Melon is one of her kind of core things. So I always associate it with like, gosh, if it makes me look half as glam as Amy, I'll put it absolutely everywhere. Right, I'm going to use my finger for this, Charlotte, and gently pat, and hopefully you can see. It's difficult, to be honest, when it's a little bit later in the afternoon. I don't know how clear this is, but can you see how actually that has made the makeup look even more full? Sometimes creams can make it look more luminous, which is lovely. And this still does do that, but you can also tell there's another layer of coverage on there. And now, really crucial step is going to be powder. Before I mention this powder, I just want to be really clear. There are so many things that you can do with your makeup that give you an instant result. They give you an instant fix. It might not last all day. More often than not, it needs a touch up. And I just want to be really realistic with the expectation I'm going to give you. This will be an instant wow moment, but in the context of your wedding day, it's going to need touching up through the day. However, I really think something like, this is the It Cosmetics by Pore powder. It comes loose or pressed, whichever one you prefer. To be honest, in the context of your wedding, the pressed would probably be more practical, again, to put in a makeup bag. But what I want you to do, I'm taking a smaller brush for this. I think this is a little Real Techniques years old setting brush. There we go. I want you to press this just down the centre of the face, because I don't want to lose the glow everywhere. I just want to seal all of this centre so that it doesn't look sweaty in any way. We look nice and flawless, and we keep the glow everywhere else. And another thing that I would really just mention, because I'm sure it's not just me, you know, when you have like those soft little hairs down, especially the outer parts of the face, I noticed that when I powder everywhere, it really shows them up. So I try and avoid powdering any of those places. I think I notice those things a bit more because I'm always looking at my face in my own phone, especially if I've got the lights on. You see all kind of detail that you really wish you didn't have as much clarity on. But I've really noticed that, and just keep that in mind moving forward for your own makeup. But anyway, pressing this in, again, we're not rubbing it, so we're not going to lift anything, but it really will instantly blur over the appearance of any texture. Nothing lasts forever, it will need a top up. But honestly, the likes of your wedding day is a perfect example of, yeah, you are going to top up your makeup a little bit more often. You want your photos to look nice. You want to make that extra bit of effort. I promise you, something like that in your bag will just really keep everything feeling fresh and quite flawless for you all day. So there we go, Jazz. Completely covered the redness, still feels nice and fresh. And what I would say is all of those products that you mentioned are lovely, and whatever combination you use them in, you'll see great results. So have a little play. You might find that you just want your Cicapair and you buy by under eye. You might find that just the CC cream is what you're looking for. But thanks so much for your message, and I hope you have a brilliant wedding. And if you're not Jazz and you just enjoyed that as much as I did, I actually really enjoyed having a bit of a brief. Do you know, like sometimes I'm thinking, which video shall I do today? And just to have that list of, can you show me how to use this was amazing. But as always, if you've got anything you want to see a video on or a question you have, feel free to let me know here in the comments. I would say, like, for example, this message from Jazz, if I were to write down all of those things, in the time I've written it all down, it's actually much easier to just make a video, and then I can show you what I mean, and chances are someone is going to have the same makeup question as you and they'll have enjoyed it as well. So always feel free to ask if there's something that you'd like to see. But thanks so much for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.